Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's session of our GradChats webinars. My name is Tivi Lasuma. I'm the GM for Student Engagement at GSA, and I'm here hosting today with a great group of people that are representing postgraduate students at the University of Melbourne. So I'll get to them in a minute, and today we will be talking about what they do on behalf of students and some of the work that they're hoping to achieve while they're in their positions. But firstly, I'd like to acknowledge that the land of the Yakult Wurrung clan of the Bull Wurrung, where I'm actually currently hosting from today. I pay my respects to the elders past and present, recognise the strength, resilience and capacity of Aboriginal and Torres Strait people in this land. So as per all our sessions, we like to get some input from our students. So if you are listening out there or listening to this via the recording, please let us know if there are any other topics you'd like to sort of hear from GSA, especially when you link them with our postgraduate student representation group. So today we are lucky enough to have five or six guests on the call. We have two counsellors, so these are elected postgraduate students at the University of Melbourne, and we have two graduate representatives. So they're actually allocated to university committees, and we provide the training and support for those students to engage with these university committees. So firstly, I'd like to welcome our two counsellors, so newly elected counsellors. I'd first like to call on Cate Allingham. She's our GSA Council member, but also our Women's Officer. Welcome, Cate. Welcome to the session.
Thanks, Tavita.
Yeah, great. So, Cate, just in general, I'd like to sort of ask you about, what's your journey here? Tell us a bit about you. What are you studying, and how did you get from your studies into this position that you're in?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a med student, and I'm also doing a master's in research at the Department of Obs and Gynae through the Department of Medicine and Health Sciences. My undergrad was in biomedical sciences, and I also did honours at the department, so the women's department. And I had never heard of GSA until I sat next to the previous women's officer, Eliza. So we shared a desk.
Oh, fantastic.
Years, yeah.
Oh, too good. It's funny how these sliding door moments sort of, put you into a situation where now, I guess with your experience, you I guess commitment, are willing to represent students. Yeah,
no, it's been an interesting journey so far.
Oh, incredible. So talk to us about your journey. So getting onto council, what was that like? What are your steps now? And I guess what are some of the things that you want to try and hope to achieve while you're in this role?
Yeah, so Eliza put me in contact with Jeremy, the current president, and some other students, because I'd applied for a casual position previously but hadn't got it. And I was really interested in some of the work the council is doing, especially in the women's space. So especially the Respect Task Force, which looks at sexual assault and violence for the university for its students and staff. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. And I mean, now you're in this role, and I mean, obviously that as a new person to the role, there's still a lot of things you're picking up and getting to know, but essentially you have your drive, right? So you have, I mean, the council, there's a lot of governance parts to the role, and as a director essentially of a not-for-profit, but holding that representative element to your role. What are some of the things you hope to sort of achieve or try and get through while you're in your role?
Yeah, so my research is looking at women's reproductive health, and that's something that I'm really interested in. So one of the things that we've been talking about with the health officer and also with Stefan is looking at some ways we can support women when they have health issues that may affect their studying. So that could be things like endometriosis, which is really common. Also looking at doing some things with the Respect Task Force and seeing that we've had some really big reviews into what the university can do. And I think now they're moving into a period of change of actually developing action plans. So I think that's going to be quite an interesting space, although I don't know heaps about it yet.
Oh, okay. Well, look, I think that's great. I mean, the fact that you've got these goals that you want to achieve, but also finding your way is part of that, I guess, goal setting, because a lot of people are different in the way they sort of address issues or find information. And I think part of the learning and also part of the achievement is getting through the right places, but also finding people and connections that you probably said, okay, I didn't realize that was a good connect to talk to, or a good person to sort of submit, to work with Natasha and get a submission put through to get a change made. And I think so. All that pull-up part experience is coming, and I'm excited for you, because we all have our, as all of the students do, have your own backgrounds and all your history that helps you shape the way you move forward. And I think that's a really exciting part of having a new council member on board. So yeah, so welcome, and hope to get a lot of things done with you and under the women's banner. And on that, so what's the best way for students to sort of get in touch or talk about things that they feel are important to them?
Yeah, so I'm happy to be emailed anytime. There's the Women's Officer email. If it's something urgent, I'm more than happy to be sent a text message as well. That's totally fine. I'm not sure if that's okay with the council, but it's okay with me. Otherwise, I think we're planning on doing a survey to sort of see what some of the issues are that people would like to look at, and that will be coming out in a little while. There are some other projects that the council are working on first, though.
Yeah, fantastic. And I know in terms of the student engagement team, we are earmarking some dates, with obviously input from council to have town halls to able to talk about student issues that arise and some comments and concerns from the student group. So I think, all the council members will be involved no matter what theme we use for those town halls. So we are looking forward to it.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Tavita.
Oh, you're welcome. So now I'd like to welcome Stefan Joksic. So Stefan is a newly elected council member. He also sits on executive, am I right, Stefan?
That's right. Thanks, David.
Fantastic. So yeah, Stefan, just talk to us a bit about your journey, as a University of Melbourne postgrad, and also, journey into GSA. What did that look like?
It's a very dappled and wild ride. I was living in Europe for many years, studying. I came back to Australia. I was working in my profession. I used to be an architect, and I decided to have a career change. Wow. And so part of that meant, well, looking at, what are my interests? Where do I usually gravitate towards when it comes to my politics, my interests? And so I decided to take up the Masters of International Relations at Melbourne. And so that's been really rewarding, and I'm really enjoying it. So I guess the career change was a good decision. So that's how I came to Melbourne Uni. And with the GSA, I was actually studying a course with the former president, Emily Roberts, and had some really inspiring chats with her. And she urged me to get involved with the GSA, even just to turn up to some events, to put my hand up to work on as a grad rep in a committee. There are many committees that the GSA is involved in. So that's kind of how my journey started.
Oh, fantastic! Great to have you on board. And it is. I've been a staff member at the GSA for probably 4 years now, and I think one of the refreshing things is there's always a new sort of insights, and I guess it's the term's fresh blood, if you like, but it's these different ideas and the diversity of backgrounds that come through essentially every AGM. And I think it enriches a lot of the activity that we do on behalf of students. So yeah, so welcome. It's great to have you on board. So Stefan, I want to ask you, like, you're a council member for in your own right, but also you're part of this executive committee. Tell us a bit about that.
The executive committee, well, that's also a learning curve. We've only just started, but so far it's about, we'd call it governance issues in terms of oversight and looking at how the GSA as an organization is being run, and working closely with our CEO to ensure that strategic plans are, being revisited and understood, and also just supporting staff in terms of policy and ensuring that the GSA is an effective, efficient and also really open organization.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, great. And I mean, there is a lot of responsibility on executive and council, as I know, because I've seen the work that you guys have been doing, you and your predecessors. But talk to us about what are some of the things that you hope to achieve while you're in your role here, Stefan?
I really hope to achieve even stronger student activism and advocacy on behalf of grad students at Melbourne, including them. And including a diversity of voices. I'm particularly interested in CALD, so culturally and linguistically diverse,
yep.
Members of our community, as well as LGBTIQ folk, and seeing their representation in many aspects of university lives. So whether it's from student well-being and support to academic resources and integrity, through to just social well-being and networking. I think the most enriching thing about GSA is that brings together postgrad students that are from different faculties and different disciplines, and so they get to share skills, experiences, make friendships, and just enjoy the journey as a postgrad student together.
Oh, incredible. Yeah, great. So a lot of passion and enthusiasm there, which is exactly what we need and we're looking for. And, you know, with your support, you know, with you and Cate and the rest of the councillors, it would be great to get some you know, activity going, essentially for semester 2 to support our students. So looking forward to it. Thanks so much, Stefan.
Thanks, Davida.
Great. So I might move on to our graduate representative. So before I do that, I might move to Dr. Natasha Abrahams, our Senior Policy Coordinator at GSA, and ask Natasha to introduce our two reps, essentially because Natasha's area sort of supports them in their roles. Natasha?
Thank you, Tavita. So today we have 2 of our wonderful committee reps joining us, plus Stefan, who, as he mentioned, started as a committee rep as well. So we have Alice Kim. Alice is a graduate researcher in the Melbourne School of Population and Global Health, and she's our graduate representative to the Occupational Health and Safety Committee. So the OH&S Committee, the purpose is to facilitate cooperation in instigating, developing and implementing health and safety measures across the university, and they formulate and review health and safety standards, rules and procedures. We also have Will Arnel joining us. So Will is one of 2 student representatives to the MDHS Clinical Placements Committee. So there's 2 positions for students on that committee, and it's quite important to note that Will is a physiotherapy student. So our other representative there is a medical student, and sometimes these clinical placements can get quite dominated by medical student concerns, but there are a number of other degrees, as Will can attest to, within MDHS that do have placements of their own. So I'd love to hand back over to Tavita to ask our 2 committee reps some questions about their journey.
Great, thanks, Natasha, and yeah, big welcome to Alice and Will. So I might start with Alice if I can. Alice, talk to us a bit about you and what your journey looks like at the moment, you know, as a postgraduate at University of Melbourne, and the work that you do on your committee.
Thanks, Tavita. So I'm a PhD student. I've just finished my first year.
Fantastic.
So I did my undergrad in science. Also did honors in science. And I came to Melbourne Uni because my research interests were with Melbourne Uni. So Melbourne Uni were the ones that were I guess doing research within the areas which I was interested in pursuing my own research interests. So that's what brought me to Melbourne Uni. So my introduction to GSA was coming to Melbourne Uni. When I first came here, it was very overwhelming because the campus was so big. And also, I guess, my supervisors were based on the main campus, but I also have supervisors at the Murdoch Children's Institute. So I had a sense of, I guess, feeling lost because there was just so much to take in. So I found GSA really helpful to kind of meet people and get a feeling of how postgrad students adjust to the new campus and adjust to Melbourne Uni. And yeah, just hearing what GSA had done, particularly with the new, I guess, rules that applied to PhD students, how they supported that change was really inspiring to me. So that's what made me want to get involved with GSA to try and help other grad students feel, I guess, a sense of welcoming and helping them adjust to uni life. So that's what has brought me to GSA.
Amazing, fantastic! What a great story. So then, and Alice, tell us a bit about some of the work, or what I mean, the stuff that you're doing on your particular committee.
So yeah, the OHS committee, as Natasha said, their focus is on occupational health and safety. So before I was on the committee, to me, OHS was my conception of OHS was quite one-dimensional. So coming from a science background, to me, it's always been associated with how you conduct yourself and how you behave in labs. But being on this committee, it's I guess widened my conception of OHS. So OHS involves health and safety in the workplace, health and safety and regulations, ergonomics. So they're all interested in, I guess, the big picture of how your environment can affect your work. So, and with the current pandemic situation, there's also been there's been more focus on psychosocial impacts. So that's
Yes.
now being brought to light, and yeah, it's, I guess that people keep saying it, but it's an evolving situation.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, just for so for the benefit of us and some of our listeners out there, what sort of, you talk about ergonomics and now it's the I guess the mental health implications of COVID. I mean, does the committee sort to discuss and write recommendations to another committee, or are there certain issues that come through to the committee that you guys discuss to fix right there and then? Talk to us about that process.
So one of the things that was discussed in our meetings, it applies to the graduate researcher community, researcher student community, was that there was many, and GSA was, I guess, pretty crucial in highlighting this issue, was that many grad students, because they couldn't come onto campus to study, their home situation may not be able to accommodate that, the ability to work from home. So one of the, I guess, things that was created to help mitigate that was providing desk space to students who couldn't work from home. So that was one thing that was discussed, but I don't know if it was not well advertised or something, but there was a low uptake of that service. So
I think also too, with the changing environment, even today, at least in Victoria, it's it's ever evolving beast that, yes, you want more study spaces and you can get them ready, but if it's not safe for people to travel, or they physically are not allowed to leave their homes, I think it sort of affects some of those outputs from different communities, not just yours. But it's, I guess, in its totality, I think it's amazing that you can be part of a committee that actually makes changes that can benefit postgraduate students. I think that's one of the benefits of, and thank you for your time, Alice, because I don't know if anyone knows this, but it's a voluntary role for these committee positions. And so it's time away from your studies and loved ones and personal life to be part of these committees. And they don't meet often, like some of them don't meet often, but I think it's still the fact that you take the time to be a representative on these committees is yeah, we're extremely grateful. So yeah, thank you so much for your time on that, Alice.
No worries.
Yeah, brilliant. Look, I might take the opportunity to invite Will to jump on board now. So Will Arnel is a current grad student rep on the MDHS Clinical Placements Committee. So hi, Will, and welcome to the show.
Thanks, Peter. Yeah, so I think you've touched on it. I think at the moment, the role that we've got at the moment as a fellow grad student in the MDHS Clinical Placements Committee is, as the first year in that role, this role wasn't previously available in the years gone by. It's been really a lesson learned throughout, but we've also had a great chance to give student input throughout this year as well, where I think, as we've spoken about, these COVID times have been ever changing, particularly in the face of clinical placements. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Fantastic. And I think that, yeah, I mean, the nail on the head is, you know, having you guys as students that are extremely important to understand that we are able to support students to make the change. I think that's one of our big things. So Will, talk to us about your journey into, I guess, UniMel, but also onto the committee through GSA.
Yep. So unlike a lot of fellow graduates within the physiotherapy cohort, I come from country Victoria. There, I studied exercise sports science at Deakin and was fortunate to end up doing my postgraduate in physiotherapy at UniMelb, obviously. From there, I'm just in my last year now, and after being actively involved within the cohort, the opportunity did arise to apply for the MDHS Clinical Placements Committee as a student rep. And obviously I applied and was fortunate enough to be successful. And from there, I think it's been a critical role for students to have their voice heard, but also create a form of accountability for the placements committee as well, to ensure that they're acting within the students' best interests and every voice is being heard. So I think it's been a great experience for myself and Roshan, who's the fellow rep, but also for the students to ensure that they're being heard as well.
Yeah, fantastic. And I think ever more so now is, you know, with these ever-changing times, I think placements itself, and I literally came out of a meeting before this call on the issues around students on placement in terms of, you know, with COVID restrictions coming into play. I think ever so more now, it's important to have that voice on these committees.
Yeah, very much so. I think the day-to-day changes that does occur with COVID, it particularly emphasises the need to be engaged with the students and ensure that, you know, at the end of the day, each student wants to graduate on time, but not have their learning impacted as well. So it's a tough balance, but having students engaged and myself and Roshan can be involved through the 8 different faculties, which obviously we touched on with Natasha, physics, medicine being 1 and 2 of them.
Yeah.
Also, like social work, audiology, nursing, optometry and dentistry, which COVID has impacted differently within the placements in their own ways as well.
Yeah, look, it's definitely a big topic, and I know that GSA, along with our council members and reps like you, would love to have probably a dedicated session online to be talking about COVID and its impact on our placements for our students. You know, talking about the safety, but also those concerns about you know, restricting their learning abilities to be on placement. So anyway, Will, I wanted to sort of ask you another question, actually, if you can. I mean, yes, we have COVID is probably one of the big conversations around place. Were there any other conversations that happen around your community or issues or topics that you generally address?
Yeah, at the moment, seeing as COVID's at the forefront, it's been about dealing with the challenges that have presented alongside that, whereby, you know, the healthcare model has changed in its own way and is still changing. That we've still got to ensure that students and patients are safe but still get the best treatment possible, while also respecting the rural and regional aspect as well, which has probably been that subcategory you're referring to, whereby rural and regional health venues really appreciate the help that students provide within placements, but it's also got to be considered that these students are away from home, potentially from places of higher density in relation to COVID, and there's also those health and safety issues about accommodation as well, where that's providing a financial cost for the Going Rural Health team as well. So it's very multifaceted and too complicated to try and explain within the half an hour or hour that we've got.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Will. And yeah, look, like Alex, we really appreciate the time that you spend to represent your fellow students, you know, in the aspects of placements, because yeah, as we mentioned before, even now more so, it is such a hot topic, and hot not being popular, hot being you know, something we need to address sooner rather than later. In this sense. So look, a big thank you to you, Will, with your commitment to representing students.
Not a problem. And I also tip my hat to GSA as well for making this position, because without students representing that committee, they do potentially go unheard, or their opinions fall by the wayside in the interest of graduations and financial aspects. So good on you as well.
Yeah, brilliant. And actually, I might bring Natasha into the next part of this conversation. And yeah, I mean, for us, council is key, but just as key roles for, I guess, the student cohort are our grad reps. And without our grad reps, we don't have the reach into some conversations that will probably never come back to us. So I think there's definitely a huge benefit to the cohort from you guys. So Natasha, I just wanted to sort of bring you in and ask you, can you talk to us about some of the campaigns or submissions that the representation has been working on, or something's coming up, or something that would be quite good to let the students know what's happening in your space?
Yeah, so at the moment, it's a really active sort of time for GSA within representation. And we do have two types of representation that we do. So one is within the university, and one is representing the needs of graduate students to external bodies such as government. So I'll talk about that external representation first. So we make submissions to government inquiries as they come up. So we've already done a couple this year, one on the free tram zone, one on the government inquiry on their coronavirus response. And we've got one coming up on temporary migration. So the government wants to know very broadly about the impacts of temporary migration, of which international students are one type of temporary migrant, and the types of issues that they face, and the flow-on effects that those issues have in the wider society. So we do have a survey open at the moment for the next week or so to try to collect some of those experiences from our international students. And that survey can be found on the GSA website, and we're also promoting it on social media. So I really do encourage those with something to say on that to let us know, to inform that submission. The second type of advocacy we do, which is the main area in which we're working at the moment, is within the university. So advocating on behalf of the graduate students to the university to get policy changes and support. So this semester, obviously, there's been a lot of upheaval, a lot of disadvantages for students in different ways, and impacts due to the online learning very rapid shift that happened earlier this year. So we've been doing a couple of things. So one is regular student issue digests to the university. So we've been collecting student stories, again, through a survey on our website, and we've received about a couple of hundred of them this semester, and initially every week and then less often. We have been collating those into a report with recommendations, and that goes straight to Chancellery and to the different important university leadership, and they've taken up some of our recommendations, including those changes to weighted average mark, and some of the financial support available for graduate researchers without stipend. And our committee reps are a really key way of achieving those changes, because firstly, they help us by telling us what the issues are and putting forward suggestions. And secondly, by socialising those recommendations on their committees and getting the support of different key people within the university. We've also been doing a couple of reports on specific issues. So at the moment, extensions for graduate researchers is a really big issue. So we're still waiting to hear on the university's policy for that. So we've conducted a whole lot of conversations, open town hall meetings with graduate researchers, and we are going to present the university with a final policy paper on that this week, which puts forward a number of demands around what that graduate researcher extension policy should be. And again, we've really utilised our committee reps, particularly on the graduate research committees, to try to influence what support is available for graduate researchers. There's another issue which is come up earlier in the semester and is becoming more important again, which is that of student placement. So many students, particularly in teaching and within MDHS, had their placements cancelled or moved online. And a lot of students really weren't happy about how that was handled and the learning experiences they were having. So we did do a big survey on that, a big report with a number of recommendations, which we put forward to the university back in May. And just today, we're hearing that there's some more issues with placement, and you may have heard that Daniel Andrews just made the announcement of there's another metro areas lockdown, which is coming into effect. So that's going to start impacting placements again. So we're going to have to do a lot more advocacy, particularly with Will and our other committee reps on committees to do with placement or degrees that have a placement component, to try to get some outcomes for those students and ways for them to complete their course and still have those learning experiences under very difficult circumstances.
Fantastic, thanks, Natasha. And I think, especially on the placements issue, I think it's definitely a watch this space because GSA will be coming forward with some plans of trying to get some more voices heard, especially with this situation. So I guess to wrap up the grad rep area is that, Natasha, am I right in saying that we have over 40 committees represented by grad students?
That's right. At the moment, we have about 42 committees and reps, and we do put a lot of resources into supporting each and every one of those reps.
Fantastic. And look, for those listening on the call or hoping to get involved in a grad rep capacity, what's the best process?
Sorry, to get involved as a committee rep?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we do have a couple of vacancies coming up. So generally our committee reps stay on the committee that they're assigned to until they graduate or until maybe they get too busy with their studies and need to step down. So we have had a couple committee reps finishing in the middle of the year, and we will advertise those opportunities as they open up for specific committees. We'll also be doing a big round of recruitment kind of in semester 2 for filling committee roles for next year, as we'll have a lot of students graduating at the end of the year and we'll need to fill those roles. So definitely keep an eye on the GSA website and social media channels for when that becomes available.
Fantastic. Thanks, Natasha. And again, thanks to our grad reps. So I wanted to sort of put the question out there to anyone listening. And I know I have a question in there. It is a very good question. I'm not particularly sure what the situation is with migration. So I think the best place is probably just to go to the immigration website for Australia to work out whether there's still opportunity to migrate to Australia. But essentially, I wanted to put a question out there to any of the other listeners out there to see if there are any other questions you'd like to ask our council members, as you know, anything to do with their role or their time at GSA, or you can ask our grad reps that are on the call too to see if there's anything you'd like to understand about the stuff that they do. If there's no other questions, I wanted to actually put a question out to maybe one of our counsellors. So feel free to jump in, Cate or Stefan. Talk to us about some of the, what's the council made of? Because I want to make sure that our listeners out there understand the current structure of GSA. Does anyone want to come forward and talk to us about what the sort of the setup is for our council? Okay, I'm going to call out Stefan.
You saw me on mute. So The council's obviously made up of postgrad students, and we have an equitable balance of genders and representation across different ethnicities and walks of life as well. So these grad students also come from different faculties. So it's quite a cross-section kind of sample of the grad community boiled down to the council. But obviously, one councillor is representing so many other students. So it's, there's all these other colleagues and cohorts that are behind these councillors.
Yeah, fantastic. I think we've got 15 councillors, and I'm going to ask Andrew in the background if he can just to throw the link to the web page of our council members. So at least for those listening and for those who'll be listening later, we'll make sure we've got the link up. But we have 15 postgraduates who have been elected in, and they got in officially at our AGM, which was held, it was about a month ago or 6 weeks ago. And so I think that the greatest thing what Stefan was talking about is we have office bearer roles as well. And I think not only do they have office bearers, but we have opportunities to be part of working groups and our executive committee, which Stefan's a part of. So I guess I wanted to ask maybe Cate, if I can ask you on this question about being an office bearer. I mean, talk to us about that and what are the other offices that you sort of work closely with? I know it's only been a short time, but some of the other office bearer roles that you sort of connect with mostly.
Yeah, sure. So office bearers are elected to represent, I think, people with an interest in that area. I'm not sure of the right terminology, sorry.
That's all right.
So far, it's only been a month, but I've had the most contact with the health officer, so that's Ruby. I'm also in contact with Stefan and the activities officer, Matt. And then we've been having general training every Thursday evening, and then we have a monthly meeting. So I think, yeah, that's about all that I know.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic because with these, I think there are 9 office bearer roles. And with those office bearer roles, and we've got, I'll have to refer to the page as well to make sure I'm saying the same thing, but we have, obviously we've got our women's officer, we have our activities officer, international officer, Ruby, you mentioned before, as a health and welfare officer, we have Mia as an education research officer, Lauren's our LGBTQI officer, and Tessa was the newly elected families officer. So I think with all those roles, they help guide a lot of the focus of our advocacy and our activities for our students. And then we have our leadership team, which is the president, vice president, and GenSec. And so for the council and staff, I think they help shape a bit of the direction and allow, I guess, the communication to work freely between all 15. And so I guess it's an interesting makeup because, correct me if I'm wrong on the call, but I think a lot of you probably didn't know each other or spend so much time with each other before council. I think being on council is one of those situations where there's the routine and the constant connection that helps you advocate and represent students at the University of Melbourne. Would you say that's right, Stefan and Cate?
Yeah, definitely. The other councillors so far, they're amazing. They're really excited about the roles and some of the goals that they have. They're like this bunch of bright people. It's quite exciting.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. A bunch of bright people is probably underplaying it. But yeah, it's definitely a group of people that you just go, wow, where did that come from? Or wow, that's a great idea. And, why haven't we done something like this before? So yeah, I guess for the staff, we're really grateful to have that boost of energy and enthusiasm and representation essentially into GSA. So thank you. If there's no more questions from the attendees or any comments from, I guess I might ask Andrew to sort of go through a lot of what student engagers are doing in the next week or so to the listeners.
Hey everyone, so thanks for tuning in and thanks to everyone that's been talking about their journeys till this point today. So to follow the week, tomorrow we have a midweek workout with, I think it's with like Melbourne University Sport at 11 a.m. And then at 3 p.m. we'll be rebroadcasting a webinar about career development. At 3 p.m. on Thursday, we've got Silva Nazaretian, who's a dietitian, to present a webinar about healthy meal choices on a budget. And following that, like the next week, we have yoga, coffee promotion again. So the yoga is on Tuesday, which is the 14th of July. And we'll be also rebroadcasting another webinar at 3 p.m. on the 14th of July about mental health support. And then on Wednesday, we've also got job market insights. So at 3 p.m. So if you are interested in looking into that, I can send a link in the chat now just about the current and future events that we've got coming up.
Fantastic. Thanks, Andrew. So GSA is not stopping our engagement over the, I guess, break. And for researchers, I'm sorry, there's not a lot of break for you guys. But yeah, so we are still going ahead with our Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday format, 3 p.m. at this stage. There'll be always something going on. Yoga, Andrew mentioned earlier, is in partnership with our actual grad group. We have the Yoga Society, and they've agreed to work with us to put our yoga classes for the next 4 weeks. So we're looking forward to them to look after that. Also, I want to take the opportunity to promote LEAD. Now, a lot of people may know on the call or in the room that every year for the last 3 years, we've run a leadership program designed to support and provide experience or opportunity to students that may or may not have been given that opportunity to be a leader in their own right. So LEAD is open for applicants, and I might ask Andrew to put the link in the chat to anyone in here. So LEAD is open to any postgraduate students, and all you need to do is submit your application. It's quite a simple application, and we will be closing applications on the 17th, so Friday the 17th of July, and we will be starting the program week 1 of semester. And so essentially it's an online program at the moment, and so it'll be a regular fortnightly seminars and workshops with facilitators, as well as every other week will be more of a coaching session between your peers and some of us at GSA to go through the content and your reflections on the content. So that's happening for at least 12 weeks of semester 2, so the whole semester. We're really looking forward to it. It is a different format, but essentially the content and the support is exactly the same. So we're looking forward to anyone who's interested in taking this up. It is absolutely free to postgraduate students. We are funded by the university for this project, and we've gotten some great results and some feedback from students in the past. So LEAD is there, the link's there. It's also, you can find it on our LinkedIn page or our website. So please apply if you have interest. Now, I do have a question in the chat here. For a placement role, are there many more roles for civil engineering student placements? Now, if you're talking about a representative space to represent the civil engineering students, I might ask Natasha to follow up with an email afterwards. So Natasha, I might ask you to do that. But otherwise, if it was about civil engineering student placements in general, I think your best place is to go to your unit coordinator within your school. So apart from, I'm not the expert actually on that. I don't know, Natasha, do we have any specific committees that support civil engineering student placements?
We don't at the moment. So what I would suggest for Mike is, if you are interested in committee roles, just to keep an eye on the GSA website for when committee roles do become available. And then if the question is actually more to do with are there placements for students to do, that's definitely a question to take up with your faculty.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you, Natasha. Are there any final comments from our guests? Would anybody like to say anything before I round this session out? I'll take that as a no, thank you. Silence is golden. So look, on behalf of GSA, we want to thank you for your time and coming today. All of you in your capacity is absolutely representing postgraduate students at the University of Melbourne. Without your input, time and efforts, it does look like a very different experience for the students. So we thank you for that, and very grateful that you are with us. And also we are also here to support you. So you're not alone in that aspect, and especially the hard work that you do. Please lean on GSA for those needs. So on behalf of GSA, would I thank everyone who attended today, and for those that are listening on the recording, please look out for all our other webinars or recordings. You can see them on our website for the on-demand versions, or register for the live sessions through our Facebook page or website. If you do need to get in touch with us, it is info@gsa.unimel.edu.au. If you do have any queries about any of the counsellors and want to get in touch with them, that's a great place to sort of start. We can forward your details onto them if you'd like to send them a message in relation to them supporting you. And also we have a number, 1-800 GSA Help is our 9 till 5 Monday to Friday number. So please get in touch that way also. So thanks again, everyone, and I hope you enjoy the day. Good afternoon.